and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is not the sideshow. This is not the sidecar. This is back to the main event. Week 2. Yeah. Ryan Baldwin here with the one, the only, the Teflon Talker, the Colossus of Charisma.
Give it to me.
The right-hand man sitting at my left-hand side, the one, the only, Mason Shepherd.
Woo! Feels good to be back, man. Feels good to be back. Let me talk to you.
Ooh.
Woo! I love that.
Sports fans, we are going to talk to you yet again, and of course it is football season, so that takes a majority of our interest, and let's just dive right in because college football is now heading into week 4 coming up, but this past weekend was week 3.
Yep.
And you know what? This was kind of this was one of those college football weekends where everything went kind of how you expected, right?
No, I think really when it comes to college football, I think if you ever notice like week 1, you can get some upsets. Week 2, expect upsets. But week 3 and 4, it's more of like the settling in. You know, you get your, in my opinion, and this is becoming a more popular opinion, Alabama constantly has a week 3 and 4 because they play like schools like Akron, and it's like week 10. You know, you've got major conference rivalries going on, and then Alabama's playing like Southern Mississippi. But anyway, you know, I think that, you know, this week was it was a tame week for college football. Nothing too out of the ordinary.
Just the, what do you think about the Washington Huskies coming up against Michigan State?
I will say this, as someone who grew up watching the Washington Huskies and their neighbor in Spokane, the Washington State Wildcats, Cougars, whatever, those two teams you can never count out. Because they always, and I'm not joking, they always will surprise somebody. I remember growing up around 2011, 2010, the Huskies had a team. You couldn't take them for granted. And Washington State was the same way. You couldn't take them for granted. They may not be the best known schools in the Pac-12, but they hold some weight. So I think what we're seeing a lot of in college football, and we can even say this for NFL when we get to that too, is a lot of these teams that have been beaten down, they've got seniors, juniors. So they're starting to play. Kansas is 3-0. That hasn't happened in the last 20 years. Kansas going 3-0.
And Kentucky's in the top 10 in something other than basketball, which is 100%.
I saw this alert on my phone from ESPN. Basketball schools are good at football now. But it's the truth because these are schools that have been taking beatings for so many years. And now that, you know, they're able to get juniors and seniors and things like that. Also, we have to keep in mind the transfer portal. It's kind of like what we were talking about off air, where these smaller schools are getting these big players because these big players, even though they came from these big schools, were not given chances to beat out, obviously, the star at their retrospective position. So, yeah, man, it's very interesting to see, you know, just teams pull up. Like BYU's 19 right now.
But that's because they dropped to
No,
Oregon.
I know,
yeah,
but they used to be 12. That's the point. BYU before this wasn't ranked often. So
The one extra note from the Washington game, by the way, did you see the stat line for the Washington receiver, Jalen Polk?
No, I did not.
6 receptions.
Okay.
153 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 receptions. Just a casual, 25 yards a reception.
Yeah, just a casual half of your receptions or touchdowns. But, just it's only half of them.
So where does that leave our top 25 here? Still Georgia, still Bama, still Ohio State. No surprise there. Michigan still 4.
Don't agree with that, but,
Well, I mean, that one, especially now that Michigan State is gone, unless Penn State upsets, that'll come down to that Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of the year.
It always does, but at the same time, thank God Arkansas is not ranked anymore. But
5 Clemson, 6 OU, 7 USC.
Still don't know how Clemson is ranked.
8 Kentucky. Now, really quick.
Kentucky.
Since we're on USC and Kentucky.
Yes.
I think that either one of those teams is going to end up being the most overrated team this in terms of like how they end up. It's going to be one of those two teams.
Yeah.
USC has played Rice, Stanford, and Fresno State. Granted, Stanford has been a solid team beforehand. In the past, they're not that same level.
No.
So they've beaten nobody, a mid-level team, and a nobody.
Okay.
And they are 7. I think part of that is because, and they, to be fair, they've looked good in all of them. But obviously part of that is Lincoln Riley going there and Caleb Williams following him, right?
Yep.
So they don't play anybody, and I mean anybody, until they play the currently number 13 Utah.
Which that's
another team. Well, that's another team that I'm like, okay, they started 7th.
Yep.
And dropped down after they lost to an unranked Florida team.
Yep.
And now they're back up to 13. So that's another one of those teams where I'm like, okay, how good are they? And obviously and maybe this is an issue just with college football in general, but I feel like our perception of how good a team is really, quote unquote, has been shifted by how good Bama and Georgia are just in general.
Yes,
right?
It has.
Because like if you look, it's almost it's not this much of a disparity, but you wouldn't say a minor league team is bad if you're comparing them to a major league team.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're still professional athletes.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't take the top team in the minor leagues versus like a middle of the table team in the majors and say, no, that minor league team is bad. Well, yeah. I mean, they're just not. That's because you're looking at it from like two perspectives where you should be looking at it here. So, and that's part of the issue that I just have with like this whole top 25 thing in general is that it leads to this stuff where it's like, oh yeah, they're the 13th ranked team in the country. I'm like, okay, well, what does that even mean in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing with Clemson at 5. Clemson's had a horrible last, really, 4 years, 3 to 4.
Yeah.
How are they 5 at all? They didn't even go to a major bowl game last year. And they're number 5 based on past accomplishments?
Right, but I mean, so the question is never, like, so now the question in college football is not how good are you as a team in your conference, because you can win, like, as we've seen before, you can win your conference handily, Cincinnati, and then go to the college football playoff.
Leave Cincinnati alone. You beat them up last year.
Leave
them alone.
Because when you say they're the 3rd best team in the country, they're obviously not. Right? Because then you put them up against an actual like top team in the country.
Yeah, which we all knew how that was going to go.
So that's it's really hard now to, in my opinion, kind of evaluate this top 25 as it goes, just because of how good Georgia, Bama, and Ohio State are. And I mean, maybe you can slot in Michigan too, because they're starting to be on the up and up. But still, like the top teams are so head and shoulders above everybody else.
The reason why I don't think it's hard to evaluate, but it's hard just based on, if you look at numbers only. The reason why you can tell talent-wise who's the best team is I criticize Bama, and I talk about how, it'll be week 10 or week 11, and they'll be playing Toledo to pad the numbers. But they've proven when it's time to play Georgia, when it's time to play LSU, when it's time to play Tennessee, when it's time to play Florida, when it's time to play these big schools, they can beat them. And that's the thing here. When you look at when you look at who is competition, how have we been judging Harbaugh at Michigan for the last few years? He can beat everybody else regularly. Couldn't beat Ohio State until last year. And he's been there for 7 years? So it's one of those things where it's like, that's not the best way we can evaluate, but with the way the standings are, that's really the only way we can evaluate in certain circumstances is, okay, when it's time for them to play a big team, can they win? And again, that's faulty too, because Cincinnati beat a big team. Well,
they beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame played like nobody else that season.
Yeah.
And so they ended up still being like in the top 25 at the end of the season, but it was the Notre Dame was the only big win Cincinnati had, and you could argue that Notre Dame wasn't even that good last year too.
But still, it was a team with notoriety, and they beat them. So it's one of those things where it's like, you have to go by, in my opinion, because that's the way I try to evaluate it, because the numbers are not going to do it justice. Again, Clemson shouldn't be 5.
Yeah, and okay, so Kentucky has played Miami, Ohio. They beat Florida, who was number 12 at the time, but I think, again, Florida beat Utah, so that's a question of how good Utah is really and how good Florida is really.
Okay.
And then they beat Youngstown State.
Yeah.
So they've played 2 nobodies and a who knows how good they are team, and they're ranked 8th in the country.
Again, they beat a team with notoriety. Florida, just like Notre Dame has, when Cincinnati beat them, a championship pedigree. Florida's won national. Again, I get it was 06, but I'm just saying that's why that stuff is still highly touted.
All I'm saying is we obviously need a 1, 2, 3, 4 separate, and then you have the top 25 non-Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan category.
Pretty much. I still wouldn't put
the
Michigan in there,
but you know what I mean. Like, there's a clear the separation from the top teams does not do it. It just makes whatever rating you are, because think about it. If you are ranking on a list 1 through 10, the human mind generally goes, okay, there's not that big of a difference between 1 and 8 compared to 1 and 25. And you think okay, 1 through 10 are generally, pretty, generally close together.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at these teams, it's 1, 2, and 3, and then you would actually need to skip 7, 8, 9, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and you start ranking the teams at 11 compared to the skill level in those.
Yeah, I think that, okay, an example of that would be UFC, where it's there are many fighters in all the divisions that see the number 1 guy or girl, and there you go. I could totally knock them out, or I could submit them, or their game is weaker. I could beat them, but they're ranked 12th in their division, and there's 11 people ahead of them, and it's I know I can beat them. Why am I ranked 12th? And then they have a few fights with people, and it's yeah, I'm starting to move up, but then people are you beat nobody. A perfect example, Ronda Rousey. Okay, her defining Hall of Fame career involved her beating people she had beaten 3 times. Miesha Tate. She had 3 Miesha Tate fights and beat Miesha Tate once, twice, 3 times. She had another fight with another girl, I can't remember her name for obvious reasons, once, twice, 3 times. Then when she faced somebody different, Holly Holm, who you could argue was, you kind of said about Florida, middle level, wasn't a superstar, but had won at championships in her past, won championships as a boxer, she lost because she faced someone who she hadn't beaten to death all the way through her title run. And it's the same thing with these schools, man. It's one of these things where, what you were saying about Cincinnati was Ronda Rousey last year. Let's put it like that. Even though they didn't win the big one, and she's won the big one multiple times. But that was their Ronda Rousey season, where they were undefeated. They were able to beat as a team with notoriety, even if they weren't relatively good. They beat a team that has notoriety. People know who Notre Dame is. And then when they faced Alabama, who is, no pun intended, the Tide, when it comes to either you surf it or you get swallowed up by it, they lost, which we all saw coming.
Yeah.
So I think I'm agreeing with you. I just think that one of the things that happens in this case is people love a Cinderella story, and it's not even just that. This creates genuine interest.
Yeah, and it's like what I mentioned last year around this time, I think, where I was okay, the only reason, because it doesn't actually, the CFP puts out their own top 4, which is different than the AP top 25 or the coaches poll. So right now, these numbers technically mean nothing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's all opinion-based.
You get an 8 on your name based on opinion.
Yes.
Where the College Football Playoff Committee could rank you as low as 12 or 14.
Yep.
But it generates interest and it generates TV views when you're number 8 now going up against whoever. Really, as long as you have a number 8, you get the better TV deals and better TV ties.
Exactly. I mean, okay, perfect example of that. And this is when people really stopped paying attention to kind of this was, you remember when the college football playoffs first started and Ohio State, I think, got snubbed or they got in over somebody else. And everybody was like, how did they get in over this team and this team has played better? I can't remember which team that they beat out, but because they were Ohio State, they beat out some team that had played better, had a better record, and it was like, are you serious? So
Ohio State was 12-1, and they got in over Baylor and TCU, who are both 11-1.
That's what it was. It was TCU.
So Bama, Oregon, and Ohio State were 12-1. Florida State was 13-0, and Baylor and TCU both got snubbed because the Big 12 did not have a championship game.
Yeah.
Whereas Ohio State, Oregon, and Bama all did, so they ended up having the extra game to play.
Yeah.
And so they did win their conference championships, fine. But yeah, I mean, you have a Baylor team and a TCU team that were really good that year at 11-1, but because they didn't have the extra game to play to put on their resume,
got snubbed. And so that's the thing. So it's like, you know, I would just kind of picture it or throw it to a more of a kind of, that's when you kind of knew this is based on opinion rather than fact, because no one can say from those 2 years that Baylor and TCU, they were beating nobody, because they weren't. They both, I think, beat Oklahoma, or at least Baylor did. And the reality of it was they were not as big a name as Ohio State. It was not Ohio State. So Ohio State gets in, and then it's Bama, Clemson, and I think wasn't also like Notre Dame or Oklahoma. Because I'm trying to remember the original, because I know Bama was in it. I know Clemson was in it.
In that, which one? The first four?
First four.
That it was
Bama, Clemson.
It was Bama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State.
Really?
Yeah, and that first. The next one after that was Clemson, Bama, Michigan State, Oklahoma.
So it was Bama, Oregon, Florida State,
and Ohio State.
Wow.
Which again weren't bad teams.
No,
but,
they weren't.
You know,
but
it doesn't, because, and I think part of the other thing too was people had Baylor and TCU like in the AP top 25.
Yes.
Up above some of those teams before the conference championship games.
Yep.
And so there's all this thing because there's like, well, the AP top 25 had these teams up high for so long. How these other teams? So it doesn't matter what the AP top 25 is at the end of the day, other than to drive viewership and numbers. That's it. And so I get tired of having to look at these rankings and go like, okay, none of these actually, like, being 8 in the nation. First of all, whether that's even true or not is up for debate. B, how much that matters compared to the top teams is up for debate. And C, whether that actually means anything at all apart from trying to drive viewership. It just makes me batty having to like look at anything past like 6. 1 through 6, I'm like, okay, fine. This is kind of where we're at right now in terms of, you know, actual chance for a championship. And then after that, I'm just like, I can't. Why? Why am I looking at number 8 Kentucky based on who they played so far and looking at the rest of their schedule, unless they like, you know, because Kentucky plays Northern Illinois,
okay,
Ole Miss, who is ranked,
okay,
South Carolina, Mississippi State, 11 Tennessee, Missouri, Vanderbilt, number 1 Georgia, and Louisville. The only game that matters to them is if they beat Georgia.
Yeah, but I also think in the same breath, when you look at their skill level, when you look at the skill level, now obviously if you look at a skill level of a Bama or a Georgia, you could even argue Florida or LSU, that schedule is not that daunting. But for a Kentucky skill level, that's pretty tough for them.
Right, but if you have to say for a Kentucky skill level, that means they're not the 8th best team in the country.
No, 100%. But in the same breath, if they do that, it doesn't prove that they are the 8th best team in the nation, but at the same time, because Kentucky's going to lose at some point. They're not going to go undefeated. But when you facing a team like Tennessee, Kentucky's not that much better than Tennessee. But see, that's the thing. That's why the numbers don't matter. Kentucky's not that much better than Tennessee as far as the skill level is concerned. Kentucky is not that much better than a lot of teams on the list, except maybe Northern Illinois or some of the smaller schools. But if they beat them, that helps them. Whether we agree that they're the 8th best team in the nation or not, that is a daunting schedule for a Kentucky team.
Well, let's wrap this up so we can move on. Number 9, Oklahoma State. Number 10, Arkansas. 11, Tennessee. 12, North Carolina State. I'm going to start stopping at 12, considering we're about to be expanding in the next.
Yeah, I would.
I'll go to 12, but that's as far as I'm.
Good God, why is Arkansas 10? Gross.
Arkansas is 10, and North Carolina State is 12. Like, that's another team. Like, really? You're telling me that only 11 spots down from 10 spots down from Alabama, 9 spots down from Ohio State is North Carolina State. You're telling me that there is a chance in the college football playoff down the road that North Carolina State is going to be graced with the opportunity to get absolutely steamrolled by a Georgia or Alabama.
Hey, I'll say this. Those North Carolina teams, don't sleep on them. I'm not saying that they're going to beat Bama or Georgia. Nobody will do that.
I'm taking a ton of melatonin and going right to sleep on.
So you're going to sleep on Wake Forest?
Absolutely.
Duke.
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Except for basketball. Duke and North Carolina get a basketball pass.
Duke, North Carolina,
Pass.
North Carolina State.
Pass.
So all the North Carolina schools you're going to sleep on.
Did I stutter?
Yes, technically.
Oh, okay. Well, let me say it without stuttering. I'm going right the heck to sleep. Big old warm glass of milk and a couple of cookies on my plate.
Wow.
Pull up the comforter, going to sleep.
Sounds more like hibernation, but
that's how deep of a sleep I'm going on North Carolina teams for football. There's your college football look. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, this was a week in the NFL. Oh, boy, let's talk about it. Don't go nowhere, because the main event. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the main event.
Yep, you know the deal. You know the vibe, man.
Still the Ryan Baldwin, still the Mason Shepherd.
You know it.
You get 2 of these because you're the Mason Shepherd.
You know it, man. I always get 2 of everything.
We're back into the NFL. I don't even know how to respond to that one. I tried to fight through that one, and I saw your smile out of the corner of the eye, and I was like, nah, I
Oh my God.
NFL. Back to it. Week 2, Thursday, September 15th of 2022. That was this past Thursday, by the way, in case you weren't paying attention. The Chiefs versus the Chargers. Chiefs come out 27-24 of the Chargers, and my boy, the one who is keeping my AFC dreams alive, Justin Herbert, went down with a rib injury.
Dun, dun, dun.
Side note, did you see Tyrod Taylor suing the Chargers doctor?
Was that the one that left the needle in him? Or was that
the doctor was administering painkillers to his rib when he hurt his rib and punctured his lung. And that same doctor
Poor Tyrod.
Dude, the crazy thing is that same doctor is still the doctor at the Chargers, and he's the one handling the rib injury for Justin Herbert.
Nope, not a chance.
Yeah, if you're Herbert, you're like, just get me somebody else.
Get me, please.
Anybody else,
please. Get me somebody else. Just not a chance, bro.
So the Chiefs are still the real deal, I guess, as much as I hate to say it.
A lot of people hate to say it.
I was kind of hoping it's reached a Warriors level of hate, don't you think?
Yes.
I thought without Tyreek Hill that might slow them down a little bit, but apparently not enough. So they are still on top of the AFC West, and now on to Sunday. My biggest surprise, you might think it was the Jets over the Browns.
Actually, no, I wouldn't have guessed that, no.
You might think it's the Jaguars over the Colts 24-0.
Okay, that I would have thought, yeah.
My biggest surprise was the freaking Dolphins over the Ravens, man.
But that's where I would have gone,
that?
Yeah.
42-38. And I don't think anybody really gave the Dolphins a whole lot of anything coming into this season with how Tua had played before, and you're in a division with the Bills and the Patriots. Yeah, you've got the punching bag of the league, the Jets, who obviously aren't the punching bag anymore.
Nope.
But I had no reason to expect that the Dolphins would come out and play like this.
Yeah.
Tua looks, I think the Tom Brady situation over the summer was the last chip on the shoulder he needed. And he did throw 2 picks, but he's also 36 of 50 for almost 500 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking good.
We're never going to get rid of him.
Tyreek Hill has given him a whole nother option, has taken all the pressure off of Jalen Waddle to be like, it's like CD looked better when Amari Cooper was there to help take the pressure off, right?
Yep. We'll get to that in a minute.
Jalen Waddle looks so much better when Tyreek Hill is there. And they both Tyreek Hill had 190 yards. Waddle had 171.
Yeah.
This is going to give defensive coordinators freaking nightmares for the rest of the season, trying to get this figured out.
Yeah.
I think the only thing you can say is like, okay, well, we can still maybe force some turnovers out of Tua, but it's going to be hard. And this credit to this defense, too. Yeah, the Ravens scored 38, but they did a number on the Patriots last week, only letting up 7.
Yeah.
So the defense has improved. The Dolphins, I'm going to say it right now in week 2. The Dolphins are back, and they're going to the playoffs. They're not going to win. I don't think they're going to beat the Bills for the division, but they're going to be a wild card spot in the playoffs. The Dolphins are back.
Oh, the Dolphins are back. You're calling it.
I'm calling it now. Dolphins are back. Playoff wild card.
You know what?
Here you go.
I can't argue with that at this moment in time. I can't argue with that. I think the biggest thing for me is I want to see how the Dolphins do. The big game for me this year, honestly, Dolphins and Bills.
Yeah,
that's the big one for me.
And I guarantee you, nobody was looking at that matchup, and we get it twice, by the way. But nobody was looking at that matchup coming into the season going, man, I can't wait for that Dolphins-Bills game, right?
100%.
Absolutely not.
Now that will be game of the year. Mark my words. Or at least the game to watch.
As I mentioned before, Jets and Browns. Jets with I don't know if it's the biggest comeback in recent history. It's definitely up there, though. The amount that it was, 14 points over the last, it was 14 points in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think, can we talk about the resurgence of Joe Flacco?
I don't want to because it's Joe Flacco, and I have nothing against him.
Joe
but
Flacco? It's insanity.
Dude.
How this guy...
I'd forgotten he was in the league before this season. I didn't know the Jets still had him as a backup.
There is not a person alive who's not Joe Flacco that did not forgot that he even existed. It was insanity. I think that... Here's the thing. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I did not see that coming. Like, at no point did I see that coming whatsoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the best thing about this team, with the Jets, is like, you didn't see any of this coming. And then when you saw it, you're like, oh, I have to take notice of them now. And same thing with the Dolphins. Dude, that division, because the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills, they're all in the same division. That division looks pretty stacked so far, and it's exciting.
Especially because you thought the Patriots would be like, I was thinking, well, I say you as in like a general you, not you specifically, but I thought the Patriots were like a clear second based off of last year.
Yeah.
I was like, man, Mac Jones is going to be better this season. The Jets are not going to be good.
4th. They will be at the. This is
They're
only the
tied
second
with
season.
The Jets right now at 1-1.
Yeah, but dude, here's a funny thing about that, right? Even in the last Jets loss, they competed to the very end. So I think the interesting thing is what is that, the AFC North? No, that's not North.
It's the East.
East Coast. Duh, dude. The AFC East looks like it's going to be the most exciting this year.
I still think the AFC West games have potential
because that's Kansas City,
San
Chargers,
Diego, Broncos,
Los Angeles,
Raiders.
Broncos, Raiders. Yeah,
But they've got competition.
But they've got competition,
and it brings up the question too for the Jets. Zach Wilson's going to be coming back here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Do you play Zach Wilson or do you go with Joe Flacco?
You know what? I think in that case, we got to give a little bit of time
Can you imagine Zach Wilson coming back and like losing a game and being garbage through the first half of a second game, and you have actual real life breathing NFL fans going, "We want Flacco." dude, I would lose my mind. Not that Flacco's ever been a bad quarterback, but nobody's going to point to those Super Bowls that he won at the Ravens or in Baltimore and go, he was the leading factor. No, it was the defense that took him there.
No, Flacco, you can't call him bad. You can't call somebody bad if they've been a Super Bowl champion as a starter. I'm not going to give that to a backup because for obvious reasons. But I think the thing with Flacco for me is that look at his postseason number. Postseason, he's one of the best quarterbacks statistics-wise postseason. That has been proven. Postseason, he turns it on. But in the regular season, that guy looks like, no pun intended, a regular Joe on the street. You know what I mean? But to see him play this well with the Jets, I don't know. Maybe sometimes I think it's like a career resurgence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's like you look at the process that Joe has gone through to get to where he is now because, you know, it's one of those things where you look at so when you look at the top guys, right? When you look at the top guys and that have been quarterbacks, look at the early 2000s, right? Breeze, Brady, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, and that's pretty much it.
That was the top ones.
Those were the top ones. Your fillers, or as we call them in acting, supporting characters, were Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, right? So for Flacco, he has surpassed not Rivers in stats, but he surpassed both Rivers and Ryan in accomplishments. He's been to the postseason multiple times. He's won Super Bowls. I don't know if he was the quarterback for the 2000s Ravens season when they won in 2000 with Shannon Sharp and Terrell Suggs.
That one's gonna.
Yeah, I don't think
it was. Oh man, it was somebody else that went on to do absolutely nothing after that.
Yeah.
It's gonna bother me. Hold on, I gotta look this up. And I'm going to think of it as soon as I see it. I'm going to be like, oh, that Trent Dilfer.
Bingo.
There you go.
But he's at least won a Super Bowl. Rivers and Ryan haven't. Ryan has gotten there, and then they choked, which is embarrassing. So I think for Joe Flacco's career, I don't know, man. The Jets have kind of really needed someone who's got that experience, and he has it.
I don't know if you've kept up with baseball much, but it reminds me a lot of the Albert Pujols resurgence here.
Growing up, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Where he started to piece it together here in the last little bit of his career. The Flacco Pujols is kind of a merging theme there of guys that are coming back late in their career and starting to put it together.
Yeah, so I think that we can view it as a major step in the right direction for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I think also in the same breath, we have to kind of keep in mind that this is only week 2 heading into week 3, so it may fade and change.
A couple other interesting games. Lions beat the Commanders and help out the Cowboys a little bit.
That name.
Aiden Hutchinson, man, he looks like a monster.
Yep.
Sets the single game Lions rookie record with 3 sacks in one game.
Yeah, that guy. I've been really impressed with this game, even when he was at Michigan. Aiden Hutchinson is definitely going to be the future. He will be. You know what he is? He is right now, because he hasn't established his own name in the professional world yet. Aaron Donald light, right? Because it's the same thing. He's not the biggest. He's not the strongest, but he is still big, strong, but he has technique and quick feet. Same thing as Aaron Donald. So when Aaron Donald leaves, that kid will take his place as being the best defensive lineman for years to come.
Depends on. We'll get to Parsons in a minute.
Well, Parsons plays multiple positions. I'm not just going to classify him as D-line.
He basically played as a defensive lineman on.
Well, we're talking best defensive lineman, best defensive player in the country. There's a difference there.
Buccaneers beat the Saints 20-10. Did you see the little brouhaha?
Yes, I did, because
that came out of that one?
Look, I'm not going to lie to you, and I do not mean to insult all my Saints fans, but when you guys play the Buccaneers, it is one of the most boring games to me. That was entertaining because, honestly, I'm going to say this. Don't blame Mike Evans. You got to stand up for your quarterback, man. I've always heard, watching the football documentaries and even films One thing coaches will never be mad about is when a guy gets kicked out protecting his QB.
Mm-hmm.
And when, Tom Brady's getting up in this guy's face because this guy says something to him, which my mom's not the biggest fan of Brady personally. A lot of people aren't, but a good amount of people also are. We can't deny that Tom Brady does have a mouth on him and will get in somebody's face. He's not completely, whiny. He will turn that intensity up. But yeah, when you see that, and there's some you want to calm down the pushing and shoving before it starts by starting it essentially. So he goes up to the guy, gives him a nice little push, which if that had gone any further, it would have been incredible. But nice little push. And then the Saints guys jump on him. It shows you how big Mike Evans is. It took two of them to bring him down, which is insane. And, but here's the thing, to classify it as a fight, when I saw that on ESPN, I thought they threw fists. I mean, It wasn't really a fight.
I call that extracurricular activities in my
100%. Now, a fight was A.J. Green and Jalen Ramsey. A fight was Andre Johnson, Cortland Finnegan. A fight was Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree.
Fists flying, that kind of thing.
That was a fight because Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree, that was almost Malice at the Palace. But as far as that goes, Jameis Winston has been playing pretty well so far.
Yeah.
Brady is Brady. You can't really say much more than that.
I mean, the Buccaneers defense is going to probably get them to the
NFC Championship
game again, just off and it's really a question of, can Brady be Brady over the course of a season? And so far it looks, I mean, it was rough at the first half, but then they put up 17 points in the fourth quarter. So,
yeah.
Giants over the Panthers, 19-16. Giants now 2-0. They beat a bad Panthers team, and then they beat they beat the Titans. So I don't really know what to make of this Giants team right now.
Look out for them. That's what I'd say.
I tell you what, it does make me nervous for 2 weeks. No. Yeah, 2 weeks from now when they play on Monday night, because they play the Cowboys Commanders, I think, coming up.
God, I hate that name.
Patriots over the Steelers, 17-14. Didn't see anything particularly crazy out of this one from what I remember. But the Patriots getting a win was...
No.
It was a win.
Yeah, because I looked up the schedule. No, we're talking about the Giants. Next Monday, we play the Giants. We don't have a game Sunday because we're playing Monday. The Giants.
Okay, so we do play the Giants. Okay.
Yep. Because I knew it was soon.
Jaguars up 24-0, and that's another one where I was like, really? Fair, you have Matt Ryan as the quarterback, but you have Jonathan Taylor as the running back, and you get nothing?
Nothing.
The
Colts will probably, if this continues, because they lost last week, didn't they?
They tied.
They tied
0-1-1.
Oh, we know how it goes when teams tie.
And, that was supposed to be like, if you're looking at two teams, they tied the Texans, and they lost to the Jaguars. And you're looking at the schedule going like, these were the teams that we were supposed to beat to get us into, these were the easy teams to stroll into the rest of the season with, right?
Plus, you have to play them again, and those are your conference rivals.
Yeah.
You tied with one of them.
And you lost to another, badly.
Goose-egged to the other one.
I think the Colts are looking at the quarterback in the draft coming up.
Yes, 100%. Not even debatable. It's not even debatable.
Talked about Dolphins over the Ravens. Rams made their comeback 31-27 over the Falcons, but that's not particularly impressive considering it's the Falcons. And Marcus Mariota. But, it was a good little palate cleanser for the Rams.
Yeah, sure.
Shake off last week. Matt Stafford was 27 of 36 for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it was that, and then Cooper Kupp. I said it last year. I still think it's true this year. I think he's the best receiver in the NFL.
That's what I said.
I think
that's legitimately how I feel.
Jamar Chase, Waddle, Tyreek Hill, all got, but the
Cooper Kupp. My dad, when I said that, brought up Devontae Adams.
The thing that I love about Cooper Kupp is he's just a wizard at finding spots in the zone to be open. Like, when was the last time? He makes good catches, but when was the last time he had to make a catch between two players?
Very true. He's
open almost all the time, and when he's got the ball in his hands, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL with the ball in his hands after the catch.
The guy he reminds me of the most, very Julian Edelman-like.
Yeah.
Edelman which is why I hated when Skip Bayless would be like, Tom Brady has no targets. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
He had targets.
Julian Edelman.
He had targets.
Oh, no. He played with Randy Moss. Come on. But like, and Gronkowski and Edelman.
Mm-hmm.
But with Julian Edelman, it was the same thing. Always found Wes Welker. Even though Wes had to deal with a little more contact when he got older, but found their way open a lot. So, Cooper Kupp, listen, guy's a great route runners, got fantastic hands, and I think with him, he is one of those. He is what Adam Thielen was 2017. I'm not saying Thielen has dropped off, but when the Vikings have dropped off, when they're needing a quarterback, Thielen is not going to stand out as much as he used to. But Cooper Kupp, best receiver in the league right now to me.
49ers over the Seahawks, 27-7, and sorry, Trey Lance.
The big
fans.
injury. I said verbatim over the summer, they will not get rid of Jimmy G. Isn't going anywhere because if something happens to Trey Lance, they don't want a chance not having a quarterback.
Yep.
So I knew Jimmy G wasn't going anywhere.
But now the thing is, like, yeah, they kept Jimmy G for a year.
Jimmy G.
But he obviously feels no allegiance to this team.
No,
right?
none
so
whatsoever.
He could win a Super Bowl with this team.
Very much.
And go get a fat paycheck somewhere else.
Which I think come on, he's in the best position.
Sure.
When you could be a champion and then get paid a champion amount of money.
Also, all those, part of the deal with the contract, right, is a lot of his stuff got converted into incentives.
Yeah.
He's going to get those incentives.
He's going to get those incentives.
He's getting his full money. Broncos over the Texans, 16-9.
Broncos are not looking real strong right now.
Well, that's the thing is, I would say that, but the Texans also tied with the Colts.
Yep.
So I'm not really sure if this is a Broncos aren't looking good or of a how good is this Texans team? Are we kind of overlooking this Texans team that's tied a supposedly very good team in the Colts and then barely lost to a team that everybody was thinking was going to be really good with the Broncos? And I guess they'll have their chance to prove it over the rest of the season. But, that's a team to potentially kind of sneak in somewhere. I don't know about the playoffs, but they are definitely a team that'll ruin somebody's day.
Yes.
They're a team
they were doing that last year.
That's a team that I would not want to face in week 16 or 17 when my playoff life is on the line.
Very much so. Because especially they won't be playoff contentious, which means they will have nothing to lose. No, the Texans enjoy ruining people's chances. So just like they ruin their fans' chances at happiness. But, I think that, when you look at this Texans team, I've always said that the Texans had potential, even when it was Matt Schaub or Schwab, whatever his name was, the schmuck, and then it was Andre Johnson. They've always had potential. They've just never had the pieces. No. Now, they still don't have the pieces, but that potential is still there. So we'll see. Honestly, when you look at that, what do you call it, the AFC South?
Yeah, that one's the South.
The
Jacksonville,
South. Houston, Colts, Titans.
And the Titans play the Bills.
Yes.
So there's a very good chance that the Houston Texans at 0-1-1 are going to be second in the division.
That's my point.
And Jacksonville would lead the division at the end of tonight.
That's what I'm saying. So they have potential to do big things. So we just have to look at that.
Cardinals and Raiders. Cardinals won
that
overtime,
was one
29
heck
to
of
23.
a game, man.
Well, here's the thing. The Cardinals looked like garbage for the first half.
Yes,
I think
did.
they are very lucky to come out with that one.
Yes, they were.
Because it also took, did you see that last drive
Yes.
that led to the Cardinals touchdown in overtime?
Yep.
Fumble.
Yep.
Magically recovered by the Raiders.
Yep.
Derek Carr.
Yep.
Almost throws a pick that the safety should have picked off.
Yep.
And then another fumble by Hunter Henry, the same guy that fumbled on the first one, immediately on the Renfro, and Hunter Henry's the Patriots.
I know.
Renfro, on the same guy that fumbled the first time, immediately fumbles again, and the Cardinals pick it up and run for a touchdown.
Yep.
So they were lucky.
They got lucky.
0 points in the first half.
Yeah.
Super lucky to get away with that one. But the good teams get lucky, as Elf says up at the ticket. And then the Packers 27-10 over the Bears. I think
we own you. I own you.
Well, again, this was the same thing as who did I say this for? The Rams. A palate cleanser game against a team that overperformed last week, and it's a team that they should have beat, and they did. They came out and actually played like the Packers. They put up 21 points in the second quarter and controlled it from there.
Yeah.
And then the 2 games tonight before we get to our boys. The Titans versus Bills tonight. I'm still expecting Bills just based on that first week.
Yeah.
But Titans could put on a little something. It is in Buffalo. It's going to make things difficult. And Vikings versus Eagles. And I think this will tell us a lot about the Eagles tonight because the Vikings beat a Packers team that wasn't clicking, but they still beat them well.
Yeah, they still beat them.
So this is going to be a big, kind of benchmark for how do the Eagles look this season.
100%, yeah.
And then let's get to the Cowboys real quick.
Okay, Ryan, get your negativity out first because I know you have some, so get it out.
It was a win. Out of all the wins that the Cowboys have ever had, this was one of them.
It was a win. I knew you were going to say that too. Well, it was a win. That's it.
Tell me how I'm supposed to feel good about that.
No,
please,
I'm not saying
you tell me how I'm supposed to feel good about that win yesterday.
I'll play devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I'll sell you one.
Please, sell me on how I'm supposed to feel good about that win.
How you're supposed to feel good about that win is the fact that what has Dallas not been able to do for the last 5 years? Close games. What did we do in this game? We had a drive that was the last drive of the game and closed. All right? That's something we have not been able to do in a while. Now, in the third quarter, we played horribly. We really did. The first quarter, we played great. The second one, it was good. Then the third, it went, and then the fourth, it was meh. So we didn't, pun intended, we didn't keep our foot on the Tigers' neck like we should have. But we closed the game.
I don't count that as closing when you score 3 points in the second half.
Look, Ryan. It may not be closing to you based on that, but the fact is we got the dub and the last drive of the game.
You know what I will say is the only bright spot for this game for me is that we only had 5 penalties.
Yeah.
That is the only thing where I'm like, okay. And
we really should have had less than that.
The problem
is
the penalties were dumb.
Yes, they were.
How are you going to jump offsides on a punt cover as a defensive lineman?
The worst one for me
of Joe Burrow. Come on, you know they're going to throw the flag if he's falling down.
The worst one, but those are the 2 ones where Burrow slides and then they dive in on him. I'm like, come on, guys.
And here's the thing, it's a win.
Yes,
but like I said, you didn't score. You only scored 3 points in the entire second half, and it was when you needed to. Granted, but you gave a Bengals team that so far has not looked as good as last year.
No.
Every opportunity
to come back and win
that game. And I don't know if it was the play calling, if it was the execution, maybe a little bit of both, but it looked like a completely different team in the second half than the first half until it came down to the last drive.
It looked like the normal Dallas we're used to in the second half. And because why that happens is, and I don't know when we're going to get a coach who doesn't do this. I don't know why that they do this. It's every single coach. I don't get it. But frustrating. Whenever Dallas has a lead, because you saw it in the first and second quarter, we're throwing the football. We're mixing it up. We're running good plays. We're moving the offense. Noah Brown, in my opinion, looked like a better number 1 than CeeDee Lamb because he plays with, on the bench, with Cooper Rush a lot. So they have a good chemistry. They've got a great connection. He looks great. So we're doing these things. The Bengals defense doesn't know what to do. And then the lead grew and Dallas became Dallas, which meant we're going to sit on the ball. We're going to run it 2 times out of 3. And then on the third, when we've got no choice, we're going to throw it. And then our defense became cover. Look, I'm sorry, but when Dallas goes to cover zone, I get so angry because it's like, this is how you get beat every year. I don't know why cover is in our scheme. We need to move it out. We need to move it somewhere else. Cover zone specifically.
The problem is you can't not run. You can't only run man, right? Because there's plays that specifically design that. So you have to at least run some zone coverage.
But we're bad at that. I don't get why we. But see, here's the thing.
But that wouldn't matter if the Cowboys had put up even another touchdown.
No, very much so.
Because then this game is out of reach by that point.
No, yeah, and see, that was the thing that Dallas did was, that was the main thing that Dallas did was they were not and did not take care of the opportunities. One thing Dallas has not done in the last 5 years, really before that, we do not take advantage of any opportunities whatsoever. I mean, we're horrible at it because we had chances to go down the field and continue to get touchdowns. Didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in part allowed the Bengals to almost win this game.
Like, I'm looking at this going, okay, think about the teams you might potentially face in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you put up a second half 0-point performance, except for the third, the field goal on the last one, and honestly, on that one, you kind of barely made that one too.
Yeah.
It took that tip pass could have very well gone into
yes, it could have
a defensive back's hands for a pick.
Yeah.
Or if you put up that kind of performance against the Packers, the Bucks, we already seen how it's gone down. The Eagles, any of these playoff-bound NFC teams, do you honestly think that that's going to put up a win? Because
No.
I don't. And so then I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a win, but how does this put us in any different of a situation than we were last year where we made the wild card, lost in the first round, all we did was extend our season by a game and give ourselves the 20th pick in the draft instead of like a top 10 pick?
Well, I think the thing here is this was not a win where Cowboy fans should be made happy. I think it was a win so we can be like, we have a win. You know what I mean? Like, this was not supposed... The game last week was a win to make Cowboy fans happy, and which we didn't do by any means in any aspect of the game. This win was to be like, we have a win, right? We're not one of the 0-2 teams. That's what it is. It was what you would call serviceable. And we won. That's the end of it.
And I take it back. The other lone bright spot is the fact that Micah Parsons is probably the best defensive player in the league by far.
Micah, the Terminator Parsons. You know why he's the Terminator? Because he looks at the quarterback after he sacks him and he goes, I'll be back. So
it's so dumb.
Without a doubt, he will be. I'm calling it now defensive MVP.
Especially with TJ Watt out, that was like the contender, right?
Yeah, so it kind of was.
So Parsons, assuming he doesn't just kind of like fall off in terms of production like Trayvon did last year, he's on pace.
Micah, the Terminator Parsons.
He's on pace for the sack record.
Yes, he is.
2 a game.
And he will break it. Micah, the Terminator Parsons. Thank you very much. Yes.
So, yeah, again, it was a win.
Serviceable.
I'm not even going to call
Ryan,
it Ryan,
you're not, but here's the thing. If Dallas wins every game this year, you wouldn't be satisfied until playoff time.
Exactly.
Which is fair. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying
and maybe
none of these wins are going to do anything for you.
A clear, convincing win over Tampa Bay would have been something to me that said, you know what? This team might be different. And then, of course, that's how I get let down. So I have decided to go with none of these wins mean anything until the playoffs.
You know what? Keep that mentality. Because, see, that's the thing. You keep that, we win. If you have any hope, we lose. So... and maybe that's just me being a jaded Cowboys fan. Well, how is it hard not to be a jaded Cowboys fan?
I did this on my rant last week.
Yes,
I'm like, how am I supposed to be anything other than a jaded Cowboys fan?
Yeah, how can you not be a jaded Cowboys fan? I mean, because, okay, you've gone to the dance so many times. Not the dance, but like the playoffs. You've gone there, right? And it's after. And the second one is not our fault.
You make it to prom, and nobody will dance with you.
Bingo.
All the girls turn you down, and you have to go home at the end of prom.
Bingo. So it's one of those things where Dallas hasn't really given anybody anything to believe in the first place. So there is no belief, contingent, whatever you want to call it, that says that it's going to be this year. So again, I don't, kind of like I hate to quote this guy, but kind of like what Stephen A. said, they were all right, and that's how that's how I felt about the win. We got it. It's all right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And then
it's not a big deal because
we're moving on right into the Giants.
So even if we beat the Giants, it's like, that's good. We have to play them again, but we won another game.
Honestly, this game is almost a must-win in terms of your hopes of getting into the playoffs.
Yep.
Because I think the Giants are going to be good enough this year to give you pressure even
100%.
with Dak Prescott back.
100%.
The Eagles are obviously going to be good enough to give you a run for your money. And if you don't win, if you don't get first or second in the division, I don't think you're making the wild card.
No.
Just based on how this team is playing so far.
100%. So I think, we got the win. Your reaction was exactly what I expected. And we just got to go from there on Monday.
And I'll be happy to talk about more, I'll give the Cowboys credit for what they did. Like, for example, they ran the ball very well in the first half. Zeke actually looked almost like Zeke for the first half until the second half came along, and it just kind of all came to a screeching halt. But again, that's the other issue about why I don't think this team is going to do very well if they make it to the playoffs, is because the in-game, we've seen this the last 2 years, the in-game adjustments are not there.
No.
Other teams constantly adjust to what we're doing, either in the first or second half.
Yep.
And
we're not creative. It's not even about being like flea flicker style. Yeah. We are very conservative and one-dimensional.
And I think you said, why do we run and then pass on third when it's like 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11?
Yeah.
I think
or
it's
like
because
even 3rd and 6.
I think it's because for whatever reason in Dallas, coaches would rather be they would rather be mad that a team came back and beat them than have make a aggressive play action 2nd and 10 and it get picked off or something like that.
And then they're not a coach to me. That's pathetic.
Agreed. But I think that's the only explanation I can think of for why every coach, once they get a lead, just completely shuts down on any kind of aggressiveness.
But you don't need to do that when it's the 3rd quarter with 13 minutes.
Agreed. But it's for whatever reason in Dallas. I don't know if Jerry has said something to him or Steven, but that's the only thing I can think of.
I refuse to believe, and it's not because I have some irrational dislike of Jerry Jones.
No, it's a normal dislike. It's a rational dislike. Yeah.
No, it's a normal dislike. He has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me.
He has something to do with everything.
Exactly. Every coach we've had does this. Come on.
Yep. All right. Well, that's your look at the NFL. Again, 2 more games tonight, and then I guess next week we'll look at the games and preview the Cowboys versus the Giants on Monday Night Football. Should be a fun one.
Monday Night Football.
Coming up next, though, we'll have an interesting topic in the sports adjacent category.
You know it, man.
This
was your idea.
It's my idea. Is youth sports going too far? Don't go nowhere.
Dun dun.
Welcome back to the main event.
What?
Ryan Baldwin.
Yup.
Mason Shepherd.
Yup.
Green Studio, Denton, Texas.
Yeah.
Time for sports adjacent. This is the weakest air.
What? I don't know what you want me to do. Like, what do you want me to do?
That was like an air horn that was mostly out of air, and it's like.
You do better.
Put some excitement in there, bro.
That's the air folk for the senior citizens home. When you don't want to wake nobody up.
Okay. All right. So, I was doing play-by-play for Frisco ISD not too long ago.
Okay.
Actually, it was last week. And one of the guys from Pleasant Grove out in Texarkana, your neck of the woods, my fantastic color commentator, Alec Rapp, found that this young man was in his sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
And he has 8 total offers from colleges.
Okay.
I also find out that he got his first 2 offers at the end of his 8th grade year. And so that got me to thinking, why? Why do we need to give offers to an 8th grader? And then the question became, how does that affect kids coming into play behind him?
Okay.
For example, he's the 32nd defensive line recruit in the entire state in his class.
Okay.
Or in the entire nation. He is going to start
Yeah,
no matter what, unless he gets hurt.
of course.
The coach is going to have to start him, basically. Otherwise, he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Why would anybody that is not, that plays that position, that defensive line position, nobody wants to sit on the bench for 4 years? And you know he's going to play all 4 years because he's a freshman. He got these offers as an 8th grader.
I thought you said he was a sophomore now.
He's a sophomore now,
Yeah.
but he got those offers in 8th grade.
Great.
So you know he's starting freshman, sophomore. And, not without due credit, because he's 6'5", 240 as a sophomore. And
Yeah.
so,
He's physical attributes, obviously has the stats to back it up.
And so that made me think, for the overall theme, that I don't like the pipeline and the trends that are going through high school and college football anymore. Sports are not being played for fun at that level. When I played football in high school, really in all the sports in high school, I thought that there was a 0% chance that I was going to be going to play a D1, to go play a D1. I was like, I think my freshman year, I was like 5'6" and like 120 soaking wet after practice with the pads on.
Wow.
I was small, and there was no chance that I was going to, I'm not getting D1 offers in 8th grade because I'm, 6'5", 240, and I, didn't get much bigger than that.
Oh, you didn't get much bigger than 6'5", 240?
No, I think I may have tapped out at capped out 5'7", 5'8", and 150 pounds or something like that after working out, and that's my senior year. But I played the game because it was fun. Not because I was going to be D1 and the best in the world, but I played sports because it was fun. I played football because it was fun. I played soccer because I liked being the goalie and I liked making the save, and it was fun. I didn't play it to be the best. I wasn't going to be the best. I played baseball because I liked Pudge Rodriguez was my favorite Ranger growing up. I liked playing catcher because it was kind of all the action basically ended with you at the end of the day, you and the pitcher. And I played these sports for fun. And I don't think, based on the current trends in college and high school football, that kids can play, and society really, but I don't think that kids can play sports for fun. I think, especially, so let's start at the top. A kid, or the NIL deal has its pros and cons for the college sports.
Yeah.
But what that does is it increases competition, and it increases a desire and an opportunity for schools to one-up each other. It's just a recruitment arms race at that point, once you factor in NIL, right?
Yeah.
Because, for example, this defensive lineman from Pleasant Grove.
I thought he was more of a tight end.
It's defensive line, tight end. Once you're at a small school like that, you kind of play both
but I thought,
ways.
when we talked about it off air, that tight end was the more standout position that he was in, because he's 32 defense. Right? Isn't he 5 or?
So yeah, he's like a top tight end or something too. He got an offer from Arkansas and UTSA in May 2021 and Baylor from June 2021. Arkansas knew about him because his brother's in the program at Arkansas.
Gross.
And UTSA and Baylor got him because he's local. But they know that to compete with it, by the time he's a 4-star recruit, so by the time he gets to his senior year, he's going to have offers from other schools with bigger NIL deals and more opportunities, right? He's going to get an offer from Alabama or something.
Of course.
And because of the transfer portal, he can go to these schools, and if he's not getting the time he wants, or if he has a really good year, he can then go to Alabama or an LSU or something and have a chance at national championship or start, whatever.
Of course.
So these schools now have to make him an offer as early as possible for a lot of money, because NIL's part of it now. Let's not kid ourselves and say that if they are offering an 8th grader an offer, that NIL money is not part of that.
Of course it is. Of course it is now.
Yeah, because there's no reason you would go to an 8th grader otherwise, right?
No,
like
not
that
a chance.
early. Like, you have to include the NIL. So parents now see this, and I mean, it's kind of been a growing trend recently anyway, with the rise in club sports and travel leagues and stuff, that there are kids that play the game because it's fun. There are kids that play the game, they like it, and there are kids that play it because they're good at it and want to be the best.
Of course.
Right? And I think the kids that are playing it for fun are the ones that are getting the shaft here. The kids that love it, like truly love it, they're going to play no matter what. Right?
Yeah.
The kids that are good at it and want to be the best at it, and sometimes it's not a mutually exclusive thing.
They all overlap.
There's a Venn diagram of it. But those kids that are playing for fun are always going to get pushed out by the kids that are better. And they're not going to stick with it like the kids who truly love the game will. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, if I didn't think I was going... Like, I played it for fun, but if I didn't think I was going to start or play at some point, like, I'm not there to ride the bench. I'm there to play the game and have fun because the game is fun. So I think it starts at that college level now, this new NIL deal coming down. And obviously it's kind of been going a little bit before that, because I think parents want their kids to succeed, and sometimes they'll push kids, and sometimes kids will push themselves too.
Of course.
But then it trickles down into the high school level, because high schools now want to be competitive and want to have their name out there on social media, and be the school that players go to, and have they want to be like, oh yeah, this kid, especially because now in college, the big colleges, they say where their high school is from, so we want our kid from X high school to be all over the national thing,
especially if they're a local kid. If you find the top local school, it's huge.
Yeah. And then it trickles down to the coaches, because the coaches want to keep their jobs and they want to move up. Well, the best way to do that is to win. And you don't win by playing the kids who have fun or who are there for fun. You play the kids that are the best. Sometimes it is the kids who have fun. Sometimes it is the kids. But a lot of times it's the it's the 6'4", 250 sophomore who is blessed by the genetic gods and who would absolutely kick my butt 6 ways of Sundays and not even give me a chance to see the field for 4 years, right? And there is only so much hard work. Like, if we both put in the same amount of work, there is only so much that hard work is going to get you.
That is true.
There's only so much and it's just I made my starting spot because I watched film.
Yeah.
And I put in the work.
Of course.
And so that was how I got on the field, was because when I would, get the packet of scouting information, I knew, okay, it's trips right. They run 3 plays out of trips right. We're in this coverage, so I need to be looking for this, this, and this on these 3 plays. That's how I made the field. I played cornerback. There is no amount of preparation that's going to keep a 6'5" receiver that runs a 4.4 40.
Yeah. From either running you over or blowing past
me or mossing me until the cows come home, right?
Yeah. Because I think the big thing with sports, and it's really with anything in life, being an actor, you kind of have to realize, even myself in that realm, you can work as hard as humanly possible, but roles will go to whoever roles go to. And also, talent is required. And also, there are things that you just can't teach. Like, I can read and have the best read for a part, but if the director sees that part for it being for someone who's not black, in the sense, not in a racist sense, but I feel like Julian was more of a white guy just by the way we've written his character. I'm not getting that part. It's just how it is. Yeah. Same thing when we're talking about youth sports, and Chris over here works hard, reliable hands. He's not a slouch either, but he's 6 foot flat, 220 maybe on a good day if he eats enough mashed potatoes for dinner, whatever. But usually maybe a 200. Lance, 6'5", 240, great hands, athleticism, speed. There are just some things that cannot be taught that are gifts, and people take advantage of that.
Yeah. And I found that out just how many kids, and because like people I think don't understand the scale of it, right?
No,
because
yeah,
they're- I mean,
100%.
because they're like, oh, there's so many kids in Texas and all that stuff. Well, there's like 100 and well over 100 FBS schools
Yep.
that all field like 50 plus, rosters, 50
Yep.
plus man rosters. But I actually went to a combine in my junior year of high school. And this is when I really found out, like, because, at first I was like, okay, maybe I can make something happen. I had a pretty good sophomore year as coming in as a backup and made a couple of plays. Maybe I got a little something. No. I went to this combine and there were hundreds of kids who were just physically more gifted than I was. And I looked around at the talent level of all these guys that are trying to get into D1, and I was just like, I've got no shot. And if I was not, going to play the following seasons, why would I have kept playing football, right?
Yeah, I think
because if I was going to ride the bench,
yeah,
to all these guys that I had my eyes open to all this talent that was clearly a lot better than I was. And this was well before the transfer portal was the deal and before kids were jumping high schools like diving boards to go to the next one. I realized I was like, there's no chance for me at the next level, like at a D1 school. I could have gone D2, D3.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's just no chance.
I think here's the thing. I had the same experience with the sport of professional wrestling. I wanted to be a wrestler when I was in middle school. I thought I could do it. I feel like I'm a great orator. We all know I am. Come on. I'm a great orator. I'm great at storytelling. The physical aspect of it, you have to learn how to do, and it's not always easy, and the demand of that is crazy, and all the psychological aspects. But I felt like, I can do this. I could be a pro wrestler. But then when I got older, same as you, I realized, besides the jokes that I tell, which are true, that I don't like being lifted, and, I don't like pain, besides that, dude, I will be lucky if by when I'm a grown adult man, I'll still be famous, but I'll be lucky if I'm a grown adult man if I'm over 200 pounds. Not because, of anything horrible. It's just, I don't know. I probably will not end up 200. Maybe.
Tell you what, you eat like me, you'll get to over 200.
But like at least a ripped, sculpted 200 potentially, maybe. I don't know. But even then, that won't change the fact that I will probably be 5'9" or 5'8". I'm not going to be 6 foot or whatever. So it's like what you said. In all sports and acting and wrestling, whatever, it's one of those things where it's like, I can look like this. I can be one of the best people on a microphone that I already am naturally in life. I've got the gift of gab. That will not take away from the fact that I'm not a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's got the gift of gab too, but he's also 6'6", 6'5", 270 pounds, and half black and half Samoan. I'm half black and half Hispanic, and I'm like 5'9". So that doesn't do anything for me. So I get where you're coming from in the sense of like, you can see, and I think some people would probably scoff at you and be like, hey, you're the one who gave up. And I think it's one of those weird things where it's like, it's not really giving up. It's knowing your limitations.
Yeah.
It's knowing, look, I know I enjoy this. Like I said, I know that this is fun. But if I even want to pursue this as a career, there's some things that I'm just not going to be able to combat. And plus, okay, I am not saying anything by this in a negative sense, but we're just having an honest conversation because this is how football operates. You were a white cornerback. I want you to tell me how many white cornerbacks are playing in the NFL now, or even playing in college now.
I can't think of any starters off the top of my head.
Exactly.
I mean, at least at corner. There's some safeties.
There's
but
some
yeah.
safeties, yeah. But point being, not a traditional position that, a white guy usually plays. Probably also wouldn't get you a lot of looks if you're not physically impressive. So the position that you play, your physical attributes, or lack thereof, as you're putting it, and just the fact that, I think what also helps with youth sports in this case for people like you and me who have considered athletic careers and then like, it's not really our thing. We have other avenues. Other people, they don't. A lot of people have no other choice. It's either I'm going to be a football player, I'm going to be a basketball player, I'm going to be a wrestler, or I'm going to be packing boxes, or I'm going to be working at a loading dock. Because I got to do something, and failure is not really an option. This is what I know I have to do. And some people have beaten those odds. There are people that are 6 foot and round that have been WWE champion. It's not usually how it works. It's not a Hulk Hogan lookalike or even an Austin or a Rock, but they've done it. Same thing with football. Jordy Nelson, being a white wide receiver, even though there have been more before him, like the Steve, I can't remember his last name, but I'm talking about who played in Seattle, and other people, the guy from Pittsburgh. There have been people who have done it, Larry Bird in basketball, so there are people that can break those odds, but then again, those are people. Larry Bird was gifted with an insane work ethic, because I don't know if you would have done this, but I don't know too many people that are going to stay in the gym and shoot 100 3-point shots pre-game.
But even still, he had there's only so much that
he had his limits.
There's only so much that if I had Larry Bird's work ethic, there's only so far that's going to get me in the NBA at 5'9", right?
Yeah, 100%, or even the NFL.
Or in the NFL. But this all comes back to the fact that it seems like coaches now at the high school level, because of how this is all trickled down, it comes down to winning first and having fun teaching life lessons second. And again, I mentioned this a little bit. Maybe I don't know. I attended one high school. I don't know how every high school coach is. Maybe I was blessed with I know I was blessed with one of the most underrated, not talked about enough high school coaches in football history, Coach Scott X. Natty, who's now with the SMU Mustangs. But he was a coach that, yes, winning was the goal.
Of course.
But it was never the end-all, be-all.
No.
We were, as much as we were his players, we were his boys.
Yes.
We were his sons, and his goal was to teach us how to be men, and teaching us how to be men would lead us to winning eventually. Hard work in teaching us how to be men and how to be proper adults. That was his goal for us, was to win through that, not win in spite of that.
Yeah.
And now I feel like winning is such a big deal to coaches. And now, I mean, it spreads down to parents and kids, because kids will want to go. I mean, a lot of kids, and it depends on the sport, but they'll choose to go play on a travel team or a club team for sports instead of their high school, or they'll put that over their high school because they think that that's going to give them the best chance to. And I'm not faulting anybody for that, but the kids that are if there is a kid that plays club and spends that extra time playing club because they're gifted and they can make the club, and they also play on their high school team, the kid that just wants to play because he's having fun, the guy who's like, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play, that guy that's in that song in center field is going to get beat out 10 times out of 10 by the guy who's naturally gifted enough to do it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No.
And it's not, you shouldn't be shamed for being naturally gifted. I'm not saying you should be ashamed for being better, or that you should feel bad for being better. I just think it's unfortunate that kids that want to play the game for fun may never even get the chance to play it for fun.
No.
You don't know how many kids you might lose because this guy who's got
NFL player's body at this
NFL's
point.
player's body and offers from colleges at 8th grade. Because let's be real, the coach is not going to play this guy even if he wanted to. Because if he's not going and if he doesn't play him, the kid's going somewhere else.
Of course.
The press gets wind that you just let a top, nationally ranked defensive lineman slip out of your hands and go to another school. Makes you look bad. You probably lose your job if you don't do well because of it.
But see, listen how we're talking about this. This is high school.
And we're treating it like a business.
Business.
That's the problem.
This is not like it's, college or even the NFL. This is high school. There is something called, I don't know, class. I don't know. It's a high school.
Yes.
And we're talking about someone transferring over sports.
And the problem is that the professional level is the professional level. College is now the minor league, and high school is turning into, if you're talking baseball terms, professional is MLB.
Yes.
College is AAA.
Yes.
And high school is basically just the minor leagues.
Yes.
Is AA.
AA, yeah.
And that's part of the problem, is that things are being treated as a business at an age where this is an age where kids are supposed to have fun and learn how to be adults.
Yep.
And not just high school, but also in college in my opinion. But it's treated so much like a business between the transfer portal now and the NIL deals. And you see that start to trickle down into high school sports.
Yeah.
Where, This is a guy that this is not an isolated thing.
No.
I've had multiple games now where Alec has said, yeah, this guy's a sophomore and he's got offers from X, X, and X. I'm like, he's 16.
Yeah.
He's 16.
Julian Newman, LeBron's son, when they were playing basketball, 6th grade, getting offers.
And the issue is the other issue is it's not like this is an easy answer either, right?
No.
Because, and we talked about this off air with basketball when it came to, people getting drafted right out of high school. And I'm like, okay, I get it, because if they have to go to college and they tear an ACL and they're not the same player, they lose out on potentially an NBA career.
Yes.
And if you make them play all 4 years, they could tear an ACL in the NCAA, and then they miss out on an NBA career.
Or the opposite happens: is they get hurt, can't play, they didn't have a college degree.
Yeah,
or a high school diploma.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so if they go through if they're drafted out of high school and it's a Markelle Fultz type deal where they tear their ACL like a month into the season, and they're not the same player. Now, granted, Markelle Fultz is still playing, but if they are out of the league in a year, they have a GED and no diploma.
Yep.
And then, I know that the first round contracts have been pretty good so far in the NBA.
Yeah.
But, let's be real. These guys that were drafted out of the NBA or out of high school, there's a reason LeBron has his production company, and he's got people that know what they're doing, handling his investments and his money.
Yes.
Because, and I'm obviously I'm not an expert in it either, but that's why I would go to somebody that has that degree so they can handle it.
Of course.
So these guys are missing out on developmental time in their life because they are being treated as employees of a business or of a basically minor league to AAA down to AA in college and high school now. And it's pushing out the players that are there to have fun in an environment where sports, like if there was ever a final time for sports to be about fun, it's like elementary school, high school, and I think a little bit of college too, but you can kind of say D2, D3 is like the fun, and then there's like club teams, but I'm like,
D2, D3, I wouldn't say fun. I mean, it's fun in the sense of you get to play the sport that you grew up watching, but you also know nobody's watching you.
But that's the thing, like D2, D3, the schools are paying their coaches.
No, 100%.
So the coaches are still going to treat it like that. They're not going to have the recruiting power, the NIL, but they're still going to treat it.
The television hours.
They're still going to treat it like their job, and their job is to win. So they're going to do the best.
There's still championships for D2, D3 schools. There's no shame in that, and there's nothing. There is nothing wrong with playing football at those schools. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, we were talking about, abilities and things like that. Okay, let's use this, all right? Like I said, I have the gift of gab, right? Not a lot of people, just like not a lot of people can be 6'5" or 240, obviously, with the both of us sitting here. Not a lot of people can do what I'm doing right now. There are a lot of people who are not good speakers. They're not good talkers. They are not able to speak extemporaneously off the top of their head. They're not able to tell stories just put on the spot. They're not able to convey a message to an audience and hold them in the palm of their hand just by talking, or in my case, existing. But in the reality of the situation is that when this skill gets used, people know what they're getting an investment on, and that's what it's become more of. Like you said, that coach that you had looked at you and your teammates and said, these are my sons. Coaches nowadays look at these kids like, this is my investment.
Yeah.
So when you treat kids as an investment, and that's it. That's all they are, is an investment. And again, we're not speaking for every high school coach in the world.
And I'm not even saying it's by choice, but by necessity, right? Because if you don't win, your school is going to fire you. You cannot go 0-10 and say, yeah, but they learned a lot.
Yeah.
And, expect to have a job. That's just not how the world works.
I think the person who set the precedent for this, St. Nick, because Nick Saban, he's talked about that, he's, people have been made man at out, whatever, before then. But what does Nick Saban care about most of all? And he doesn't care who he will have to cuss out to get that point across. He cares about winning. That's it. He wants to win. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. And I think a lot of coaches see that and like, man, look at the success this guy's having. And then when they start having that success, they're known as the high school of the certain city, because Texas High was that way. Ryan Mallett came from there. Texas High played a national televised game on ESPN in the early 2000s. So shout out Texas High Tigers, class of 2020. But it's one of those things where it's like when that happens, and then you start, because dude, Nike, Adidas, Jordan, they're reaching out for people, or not just people, but they're reaching out to, give high school kids gear. Like, when we were growing up playing, you had an away uniform, you had a home one, maybe an alternate, but maybe that's it.
Usually the alternate was like a mix-up of your home and away
Exactly.
put together, yeah.
Now it's, okay, you got the shiny helmet, you've got the glittery gloves, you've got everything gear-wise like it's a college team. So I feel like things, like you said, I feel like college football is not college football anymore in presentation. I feel like it's minor league NFL. It's minor league NFL really right now. And I think that high school has become college football because it's an atmosphere, an environment, nobody's getting paid, and you can, if you don't get the opportunities you want, you can move schools, which again is insane to me, but at the same time, that's what's been happening a lot more. So I think when you look at, youth sports being fun and being able to be like, I want to have fun, I want to be able to do this thing that I want to do. I think now, and I realized this in 8th grade, which is why I'm glad I didn't take that chance, was if you take the chance to be involved in athletics, you better love it, you better commit to it, because you'll get weeded out if you're doing it to have fun. It's not what it's about anymore. No. It's about, can I be the best and develop a brand to where I can have fun because of how much money I'm going to make? Not, can I do this and have the experience being said I played high school football. Yeah. Those days are over now.
And I think my final thought on this is that there's a difference between playing it for fun and playing it for the love of the game.
Yeah, very much so.
In 8th grade, I played basketball. I went out for basketball for 1 year in 8th grade because my friend said, hey, let's do this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, why not? Never enjoyed basketball really very much. I played it because my friend was going to, and I thought it was going to be fun. There's an 8th grade team, a 7th grade team, and a 7th and 8th grade C team. I made the 7th and 8th grade C team. So I was not good. I couldn't make a layup, had to jump shoot my free throws because I couldn't make it there otherwise. I was a pretty speedy guy, and I played good defense, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And I played the season, and afterwards, I played it for fun. I didn't love it, and I was done because I knew that there was no amount of, I was going to be at a huge disadvantage trying to go out for a high school sport, and I didn't love it enough to go and just play it anyway and ride the bench and just be part of the team. So that is the difference between, because there's some guys who are like, oh, I'm just going to play it for the love of the game. That's different. I'm like, and that's fine. But now I am
that's a different environment.
Yes, this whole segment is me lamenting the ability of those kids to play for fun. And I am afraid that it's going to keep getting younger and younger as this keeps trickling down, because how long before high school coaches start looking at feeder schools and are telling parents like, hey, you come to me for 5th, 6th, 7th grade. They're like, hey, this kid looks like he could be pretty good. Come play at my high school because I have all these players that go up to college and colleges start recruiting here. So I'm just worried about how long it's going to take before kids who want to just play for fun are completely out of the game.
Yeah, I think, I think it really would change the dynamic of high schools in general and their programs because, I have an older sister whose husband was a band teacher, and he had to deal with a lot of, I want to do band, but my parents are making me, play football or sports, whatever. And the reason that's relevant to this conversation is just because, like you said, that could be a change. What if there's a guy who's 6'3", he's a little scrawny kid, 6'3", 195. He's a theater kid, right? Drama. Coach sees him. It's like, hey, have you ever thought about playing basketball? And it's like, no, you should really think about it. Do you follow basketball? Yeah, sure. Well, you should really think about that. Think about how that affects your other programs. Because now the coach is affecting the other programs because he's trying to build on the high school sports program and putting people in positions they may not even want to be in. So you will, it's like what you said, you will always have people that will still just do it just to play it and have fun because they grew up doing it and they don't really know anything else. You'll have them mixed in with people who feel like that's their only way out of their situation that they're in and they have to do it. And then you'll have those people that's not their only way out, but they've wanted to do this since they were a little kid, and that's the only thing that they have their mindset on doing. You will always have those three mixes, but at the same time, more emphasis will be put on the first two than the last one.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is the main event. Another good, clean, family fun episode there, Mr. Shepherd.
Yep. Wow. Don't ever say my last name like that again.
Shepherd.
Don't stop saying it like that.
Maison Shepherd.
Look, I'm not from Quebec. Don't do me like that.
Why's it got to be Quebec? Can't it be Paris?
No.
No? Oh,
no.
Is that not? Oh. Oh, I forgot you're Canadian for a second. I forgot the connection there. All right, well, let's get out of that because that's embarrassing. This has been Ryan Baldwin and Mason Shepherd from Denton, not Canada.
Denton, not Canada.
We'll see you back next week, bright and early on Monday afternoon to preview Cowboys, talk about college football, and find something else. Until then, Mason Shepherd and Ryan Baldwin signing off.
Boom.
Boom.